We're going to jump back into this one because last week I used Ronald Reagan's space shuttle address to the nation on the day of the Challenger explosion for my model intro. So I'm going to do the same one. So if you go back, you can see this would be my intro, and this would tonight be my first body paragraph. Literally, if the Space Shuttle Challenger address was the prompt, and the task was, what does Ronald Reagan do to effectively move his audience? That's essentially what every prompt is in different words. That last week I gave you what my introduction would be. This week I'm giving you my first body paragraph. We're going to quickly just think about what an analytical mind looks like. In the first section, again, so it's actually the same section as last time. And then just quickly, I want to spend most of our time not in his words again, but in my analysis of it, right? Just as a model of analysis. This is something to go back to and to look at, and really, none of this matters if you're not intentionally practicing this way. It doesn't have to be my organizational way. Totally can use it. But the point of it is spending a lot of time with high-level analytical thoughts. So again, if you've been with me, you've heard this before. The nation is in mourning. We just saw the Challenger explode on live TV. It was supposed to be the State of the Union address. Ronald Reagan obviously punted on that and just addressed what everyone needed to hear, his thoughts on the tragedy of the day. And also pointing out that astronauts at the time were American heroes. The time, remember, 1986. I'm going to just quickly go through this. We've done this before, but for anyone who's seeing this in isolation, I want you to have a little bit of sense of Reagan's speech before I just analyze it. I can't analyze it unless we remember where his words are coming from, right? So I'm just going to look at the first few sentences of his speech, and then I'm just going to analyze those. So Reagan says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I plan to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union. But the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering." All right, so again, he's emphasizing the magnitude of the day's events. He's meeting the audience where they are because they need to mourn. He's mourning with them. He cannot launch into anything else if he did not meet them where they were. So that's very much what I've been talking about tonight. That we're finally getting practical and tangible here in like 2 minutes. What would I actually write? That's what I'm thinking. Continues, "Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss." So he's bringing in a human element. He's saying, I'm going through this. My wife is going through this. He's just connecting himself with his audience. Later on, he's going to push for the furtherment of space exploration in America. He might diverge with his audience then. Not everyone might agree with him. Right now, I think it's safe to assume everyone in his audience agrees with him here. This is a national loss, a national tragedy. All right, let's continue with Reagan. 19 years ago, almost to the day, we lost 3 astronauts in a terrible accident on the ground. But we've never lost an astronaut in flight. We've never had a tragedy like this. So here he's highlighting the uniqueness of the tragedy. He does that for twofold. Once to just emphasize like how much the mourning process needs to happen. But again, I just told you he's going to. So obviously we got to read it in context. We're not doing that tonight, but we would. We'll see the second half of the speech is saying we need to recommit to space exploration in America. By highlighting the uniqueness of the tragedy, he is also making sure his audience recognizes this isn't a common occurrence. We're not going to let this one uncommon thing, as tragic as it may be, stop us from our pursuing our goals. Let's continue. "And perhaps we've forgotten the courage it took for the crew of the shuttle, but they, the Challenger 7, were aware of the dangers, but overcame them and did their jobs brilliantly." He's describing the astronauts as courageous heroes, clearly reinforcing the beliefs that the audience already has. And I'm not going to read this, but we mourn 7 heroes, 7 names. We mourn their loss as a national tragedy. We mourn their loss as a nation together, I should say. He's slowing down. He's naming them. This is very common in times of mourning. We want to hear the names. That helps us process, that helps us make our mourning tangible. So he does that very intentionally there. He's personalizing. This is not just 7 heroes, it's 7 real people with real families and real names. Now, I'm going to pause with Reagan here and get into my analysis. But again, keeping in mind, my analysis here, the trend is he's joining his audience where they are. He's mourning with them. But I have to, and that's great. And if that's all I do, if that's all I talk about in my paragraph, I can certainly get that college credit. But the highest level writers are going to keep that in context. So I'm just telling you the context tonight. The context is he is going to shift where everyone agrees with him here. We need to mourn. This is terrible. But he shifts to, and we also need to recommit ourselves as a nation to space exploration. Not everyone's going to agree with him. So he's mourning with everyone, getting everyone aligned before he goes to a more controversial subject.